So you're telling me we're to judge this film off of an incomplete original? I don't know. Before we begin, I'd like to be upfront about a few things, because I know the internet loves to fact check, and I'd rather some of y'all to just save your comments for another comment section. This is going to be a review of Christopher Nolan's 2026 film, The Odyssey. Not Homer's original epic, not the Iliad, and not any other translations, though Nolan did draw heavy inspiration from Emily Wilson's 2017 translation, which I've seen a lot of people have problems with. We'll get into that. Her translation begins with the line, "Tell me about a complicated man," which I think is what drives Christopher Nolan's vision for this film. Now, a lot of people flag that Sinon is not a character in the Odyssey or the Iliad, and they are correct. Sinon comes from Virgil's Aeneid. It's a Roman epic written centuries after Homer that follows the Trojan hero Aeneas.
What's your name?
Aeneas.
Do you know how to use a sword?
Yes.
As long as it remains in the hands of a Trojan, our people have a future. Protect them, Aeneas. Find them a new home.
I will.
He survives the fall of Troy and journeys to found what will eventually become Rome. And in that epic, Sinon is the Greek soldier left behind, convincing them that the wooden horse is a sacred offering to Athena. So Sinon, in Christopher Nolan's take of the Odyssey, plays the same exact role he played in Virgil's Aeneid. So rather than like a mistake as everyone is making it out to be, I think it was just a creative choice. And that leads me to say, people really do need to take a step back before they just start crapping over everything. And I want you to think about it like this. The Odyssey, even the original, was never a document of confirmed facts. This was an epic built on unverifiable storytelling. Things that would be outlandish to us today, like giants in full armor, creatures with multiple heads, the son of Poseidon, the Cyclops. But even the more realistic details, like the 10-year siege of Troy itself, or Odysseus' kingdom of Ithaca as a politically real and functioning Greek city-state, have never been absolutely confirmed. This is a story that was passed down orally for generations before anyone even wrote it down. And how does the film start? We're hearing the story of Odysseus, not from Odysseus or from one of his soldiers, from a bard that wasn't even there. The bard was played by Travis Scott, by the way, which, you know, cool. But I think tiny details like that is a nod to the nature of these old epics that we have, this really old literature. The longer a story exists, the more muddied the waters become. The more mouths this story passes through, the less accurate it becomes. Did you guys do the thing in school where you have to pass down a message beyond like 20 people? It starts off with one message and it ends up in a completely other message by the end. Yeah, that's pretty much what this is. So after a while, it's no longer what actually happened, it's how we remember it. Now, I believe this story of Odysseus is being told by the bard the entire film. Like, that is what we're seeing and hearing the entire time. And if that's true, then you have to remember this. This story is being told in Ithaca, Odysseus's kingdom. Not only was Odysseus king there, he also freed everyone from these disrespectful guests who took over his home and tried to take his wife and kill his son. So to the bard and the people of Ithaca, Odysseus is a hero, a liberator. But depending on who you ask, the Trojans that died in that horrible war, the men that died on the way back home that he didn't bury and give honor to, he's not a hero, he's not a liberator. He's a cunning, selfish, evil trickster, maybe even a villain. So the story you get depends on who's telling it and what they owe him. And the people of Ithaca owe him everything. So in my eyes with Sinon, all Christopher Nolan did was pull a character from a connected mythology and slotted him in a role that makes sense. So the idea that Christopher Nolan's creative choices in this film somehow corrupts the original version of the Odyssey, I'd say this. I'll reiterate, the story of the Odyssey was passed down orally for generations of bards and performers. So even the original relies on the memory of these bards through generations. So I look at this film as Christopher Nolan's take on the Odyssey, but instead of translating the ancient text, he did it in film form. So with all of that being said, the borrowed characters from other epics, the mythological elements that were never literal to begin with, and a narrator who wasn't even there, I'm going to dive into what I got from Nolan's take of the Odyssey. I watched the Odyssey on the release date, and here is the proof. It reminds me of a book called Revenge of the Tipping Point by Malcolm Gladwell. If you want one for the children, What If Everybody Did That by Ellen Javernick. Really good books. Now, obviously, Revenge of the Tipping Point is a bit more serious themed about the epidemic of social trends. What If Everybody Did That is a more humorous children's book. However, in both of these books lies somewhat of an explanation or reason as to why Odysseus lost his will to return home, leaving his kingdom, his wife, and his son down spiraling into ruin. Before getting to my main point, I do want to say it was a brilliant film. It did feel like an Odyssey, a transformative voyage. That's the definition of Odyssey. And maybe because it was like 2 hours and 53 minutes long or something like that. Christopher Nolan was both the writer and the director of this film, and I'm not gonna glaze him. He's been glazed enough. He does good work. We've got quite the ensemble of A-list actors on this film, starting with Matt Damon, which I thought, you know, his performance was kind of the glue to this whole thing, as he's kind of the main character. It seems like Jon Bernthal and Tom Holland has been seeing a lot of each other lately. I've already got tickets to Brand New Day, very excited about that. But Tom Holland plays as Odysseus' son, Telemachus, and Jon Bernthal plays as Menelaus, King Menelaus, sorry. Lupita Nyong'o plays as Helen, Menelaus' wife. I hope I pronounced that right. And she also doubles and plays as, you know, Helen's sister, which is
Clytemnestra.
Yeah, I couldn't say that. Annie Hathaway plays as Odysseus' wife, Penelope. Robert Pattinson is playing as this super jerk, Antinous. We've got Zendaya playing as Athena, John Leguizamo playing as Eumaeus, and then Charlize Theron as Calypso. I think that's all the ones that I, remember. What this film showed me was that even a good person with good morals and code can slip up, and furthermore, the difference between that event compromising or strengthening those morals. In Odysseus' case, his resolve was steadied so strongly, he believed he had single-handedly initiated the breaking of Zeus's law at scale, which allegedly had been keeping this civilization together and peaceful. Zeus's law is basically just based around hospitality between host and guest. You treat others the way you want to be treated. And the breaking of this law is what got Odysseus involved in this war in the first place, when Paris, the Prince of Troy, stole Helen, King Menelaus' wife, took her back to Troy. So if you go to your friend's house for dinner and you take his wife back to your house, yeah, I'd say you were a bad guest. So knowing that bad things typically happen when the expectation of Zeus's law isn't upheld, you wouldn't want to break that law, especially if you know you've most likely encouraged others to do so as well. But you see, Odysseus was a leader, and leaders take responsibility for all outcomes, positive and negative alike. From breaking Zeus's law with the Trojan Horse plan, leaving his men unburied and honored on the way home, what does responsibility look like when you feel you've been irresponsible? Redemption. And so I come full circle back to my main point, and I guess you can say this is my takeaway from the film, which is we should all pay more attention to the impact our actions have on the world. Like the children's book, we should ask ourselves, what if everybody did that? It's a really good question. If we were to take one person's actions and multiply them amongst everyone, how bad would that be, or how good would that be? You see, all trends start from somewhere, good or bad, and maybe, just maybe, we should be trying to contribute to the good ones. Would you be able to live with the fact that you shifted the behavior of an entire population that would undoubtedly lead to a lot of unnecessary bloodshed and war? I would. If I couldn't pick 7, I'd go to 8 instead of 6. I think it was an amazing film. The scale in which they filmed it is just insane. It was a very ambitious film. After looking into everything he pulled from, I think that he's just a very creative and expressive person, filmmaker. The scores were beautiful. It was shot beautifully. The actors' performances, the costumes, and this is just me looking at the film for what it is and not what I want it to be. That is my take on Christopher Nolan's 2026 film, The Odyssey. If you want to watch some of my other reviews, I will put them somewhere up here. And of course, let me know if there's any films or TV shows you'd like me to react to or do a breakdown on, and I will definitely get to that. I love doing these. They're pretty fun. If you like storytelling, you found the right community today. Welcome to Storycrafters. We are a bunch of story heads. So join in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.